Hello again, I'm Wally Wood. Welcome to another edition of the Revelation File Report. This is episode 38. Since we've been on the air with these programs, we've gotten some feedback from some of you asking about my beginnings. How did this ministry begin? Most people don't know me. I'm kind of a new face on the block. And so in our upcoming episode, we're going to give my prophetic testimony because this began in the area of prophecy. And as a kind of a lead-in to that, I want to read to you an opening slide here that gives a little bit deeper understanding as to what this particular ministry is all about. I'm not your typical prophecy teacher of anything like this. I do have an extensive journalism background in broadcasting and print. But my focus has always been in this area of end-time Bible prophecy. So as we go into this particular slide and in today's program, my life's focus has always been set on one main theme since the early 70s. The signs of Christ's return in the lifetime of that one generation, they would see those prophesied signs in accordance to Matthew 24, verses 33 and 34. Neither an advocate nor an activist of the things that I would see, research, and report, my intent has always been to present the evidences behind the claim that Jesus would return in the days of that one generation, just as he said he would. The emphasis has always been, now is the time to prepare to meet thy God, according to Amos 4:12. This is a ministry given to information, education, and teaching. It is not one given to personal opinion, editorials, or commentary. The times and trends of today dictate a balanced review of a sober response. As Sir Isaac Newton once said in his 18th century, about the times of the end, a body of men will be raised up who will turn their attention to the prophecies and insist upon their literal interpretation in the midst of much clamor and opposition. End of quote. I am both of that generation and of that persuasion. As I always do, I post this fair use doctrine slide to show that much of the material that we use is from YouTube and from other sources. And we lay no claim to them at all, but we use them for transformational and educational, informational purposes only. Whatever opinions you may hear expressed by myself are strictly mine. They do not, this particular network and its ownership and leadership does not necessarily subscribe to the things that I say, and that's fine. I'm grateful for this open door to present to you these presentations as the Lord has put them in my hands over the years. As you may recall, those of you who've been with us for some time, we've covered some ground on our March into New World. And we've shown you documents, blockchain documents, cornerstone documents that are paving the way toward this next era that the world is just about to go into a new one world order. And today we're going to take a further step into this particular arena. Episode 38, Building the World Parliament. This is not a pipe dream. It's not something that's just being imagined. It goes back several decades in its design and its building. The World Constitution and Parliament Association was established in 1958 by Professor Philip Isely and his wife Margaret of Denver, Colorado, to create a constitution for a federation of Earth and to promote democratic world government under that constitution. In the late 80s and early 90s, Dr. Isely and I exchanged correspondences. We wrote back and forth. And he was very dramatic and determined to press forward on his design for a world constitution and a world parliament. And he sent me some of the elements that went into the early founding and the building of this parliament, two of which we're going to review today. This first one is the design and action for a new world, provisional world parliament. As we go into this, I want you to hear this particular sound clip that we picked up just recently, having to do with a world parliament as the core of a world federation.
Why don't I have the opportunity to vote to elect someone to represent me at the world level? It's if we seem to take for granted that democracy and legislatures, where we both elect particular individuals and send them to bodies that have the power to enact enforceable law, if that's the way we do it in Los Angeles, in Sacramento, and in Washington, why in the world don't we do it that way on the world stage? But I think the big idea is that we ought to have something like a parliament of humankind.
Join with us and to be a part of this process as we take that most noble step of all of humankind, the final step to the way we govern ourselves, a world government. We have the main body, which is the Congress of the Earth, consisting of 1,000 women and 1,000 men, one from each world congressional district of 6.5 million people, 1,000 districts, or 2,000 people will be in the Congress of the Earth.
World government advocates are suggesting a new political vision, an effective alternative to the United Nations' fatal weaknesses. It's a vision as courageous as that of the framers of the United States Constitution. It will feature a federation of all nations, with democratic elections of a world legislature, a government under law with a Bill of Rights, a system of world courts, and global law enforcement to ensure peace.
This is the document that you're seeing right now on the screen that Professor Isely sent to me back in the 80s. And this is the groundbreaking cornerstone of this Provisional World Parliament. On the inside front cover of this document, a call to the Provisional World Parliament, we read, and I quote, "At this moment, all people on earth are confronted with imminent and growing threats of universal catastrophe. Many problems urgently require solutions on a planetary scale if the people in any locality are to survive and prosper. Before world federation can be established, agreement must be reached on a world constitution." Continuing the quote, "Fortunately, a constitution for the Federation of Earth has already been prepared and is now being circulated worldwide for ratification by the nations and the people of Earth." End of quote. And this is the 1977 model of that Constitution. On the back cover of this document, we read this, quote, "This call to the Provisional World Parliament was adopted and issued from the 4th Annual Convention of the World Constitution and Parliament Association, meeting at New Delhi, India, from the 21st to the 24th of February, 1981. This document contains 40 pages, 11 bills, and it addresses 50 world problems, as it deemed as problems for the world at the time. This particular document is copyrighted in 1988 and published by the World Constitution and Parliament Association that Dr. Isely founded in Lakewood, Colorado. When you go to their webpage, this is the banner that you see. World Parliament, a democratic, non-military government based on establishing peace and solving environmental problems. And as you review their material, they overemphasize the fact that this world government will have no military. It will have a police force, but no expenditures will be spent in any way, shape, or form for military projects. This Provisional World Parliament. We also have the second founding document, Plan for an Earth Financial Credit Corporation, the key to a new world economic order. This is the second document that Dr. Isely sent me, which was one of the cornerstones of this new world system. In this document, we quote, "World Legislative Act number 11 for an Earth Financial Credit Corporation was prepared and is now offered for implementation." End of quote. Among the 9 main features and benefits of this plan are these, and I quote, "Provide unlimited financial credit for all worthy, meaning non-military, humanitarian projects in all countries where people are available to work. Release developing countries from the bondage of debts, no interest, only low administrative and accounting fees. No more foreign exchange fluctuations, manipulations, or conversions. All financing is in terms of a single global monetary system calculated in Earth dollars. Now, did you catch that? It is their proposal that national sovereignties be done away with and that national currencies also be done away with, replaced by a single monetary system counted in what they consider to be Earth dollars. Continuing the quote, adopted at the third session of the Provisional World Parliament plenary session, the 27th of June, 1987. So again, we show this is ongoing, is moving forward. In Article 5, Section 7 of this document, we read this. The line of credit will be accounted in terms of Earth dollars, which shall at no time have a lower value than USA dollars or international SDRs, being special drawing rights, whichever is higher in value at the time of the exchange. End of quote. This is a picture of an SDR, a special drawing right. Now, we'll go into these in deeper details in upcoming programs and their relationship with this new global economic system that is in development right now. But just to kind of give you an introduction to SDRs, please notice, as we've blown this up, in hope we trust. That is their motto. In hope we trust. For all insured international mailing, the U.S. Postal Service now requires all values expressed in special drawing rights. 2019 value of one SDR is $1.42 in American dollars. Since 2006, SDR is the only global currency referenced in monetary conversion terms in the USPS, the U.S. Post Office website. This is the first federal agency of the U.S. government to recognize special drawing rights exclusively as an exchange medium for all foreign currency. In February 2011, the managing director for the International Monetary Fund called for a, quote, new world currency that would challenge the dominance of the dollar and help curb future financial instability, end of quote. He advocated that the IMF's SDR would fit that bill sufficiently. Now, please note that was in February 2011. And the special drawing right now has come to the point where it's being addressed at the public level. What can individuals do to exchange or to purchase SDRs? This is a trading unit of monetary value within the IMF exclusively among its members only. They can't currently buy services or products with SDRs, but they can exchange them among member nations. But it's on the verge now of finding its way into the public domain for the first time in its history. Quoting Strobe Talbot, who was Deputy Secretary of State under the Clinton administration and is current president of the Brookings Institute, quote, in the next century, the 21st century, nations as we know it will be obsolete. All states will recognize a single global authority. National sovereignty wasn't such a great idea after all, end of quote. And he was the Deputy Secretary of State in the Clinton administration. So he had a voice in the White House. James Warburg, member of the Council on Foreign Relations, in February 7th, 1950, speaking before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, he says, quote, we shall have world government whether or not we like it. The question is only whether world government will be achieved by consent or by conquest, end of quote. Peter Singer, in his book in 2002, One World, The Ethics of Globalization. Professor Singer is a professor of bioethics at University Center for Human Values at Princeton University. And he wrote, and I quote, Is the division of the world's people into sovereign nations a dominant and unalterable fact of life? We have lived with the idea of sovereign states for so long that they have become a part of the background not only of diplomacy and public policy, but also of ethics. Implicit in the term globalization is the idea that we are moving beyond the era of growing ties between nations and are beginning to contemplate something beyond the existing conception of the nation state. End of quote. So again, I hope you're picking up on the fact these are very serious voices, very serious claims, and very serious motions in the direction of a one world government. This has gone beyond the level of conspiracy theory, folks. It's no longer conspiracy theory. It is a fact that's going on that has now been opened up to the public. And if you've been, again, if you go back to our episode on the New World Order, our March into a New World, I'll show you the documents that are part of that development. This is just another chapter of that series. If you go to our website, therevelationfile.com, you'll see some tabs across the front. If you click on One World Index, it'll take you to a page that we've designed that takes you to the World Constitution, all three models that date all the way back to 1965. The latest model, 1991, you can now download into your own computer, all 50 pages. Again, they've opened the door, they've torn back the veil. It's no longer secret. They want everybody in the world to have a copy of this Constitution to the Federation of Earth. Alongside that, we also take you to the link that you can download the Pledge of Allegiance of the Constitution to the Federation of Earth as well. The closing paragraph of the preamble to that new Constitution reads, "We, citizens of the world, hereby resolve to establish a world federation to be governed in accordance with this Constitution for the Federation of Earth." End of quote. This new world parliament that's being designed is intended to replace the United Nations. And I found it rather interesting that at the very founding of the United Nations back in the 40s, its original name was Earth Congress. That's true. It had the same charter. And down the line, they decided to change the name from Earth Congress because they felt that the public opinion would not support such a concept at that time. It was too early. That's when they changed it to the United Nations. But the concept has been alive ever since. All this has its roots, as we've taught you along the way here, in Bible prophecy. As far back as Daniel chapter 2, the dream of Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, and Daniel's depiction to him of what it was he saw in that dream, this statue made up of various different metals, depicting the course of world empires from that point of Babylon being the head of gold in the statue, taking it right down to today's day and time and the feet and the toes of iron and pottery. It's also spoken of in Revelation 13, the multi-horned beast, and the middle horn being the final ruler of this last world empire that was set to come. These are things that are happening now. And sadly, much of the church is ignorant of the times that we're living in. But even the things that we're seeing right now in the way of pressures, the political pressures, the economic pressures, they're all part of this grand design to justify the call for a world parliament and a world president. And again, I invite you to go back and review some of our most recent episodes when we've talked about the president of planet Earth, as was described in Time magazine in 1977, calling for such an office to exist. So these things have their root in end-time Bible prophecy. If you round out this particular segment, I take you back to my websites. I've got 5 websites, not all of which are religious themed. WallywoodMinistries.com, TheRevelationFile.com are. and they focus in on end-time prophecy and the events supporting what prophecy declares would occur in the last days. But the other websites, diginomicscentral.com, ourtransparentworld.com, and WollywoodTechNews.com, these are predominantly secular. Diginomics Central goes back to my first book in 1974 on Cashless Society, A World Without Money, in which I predicted that there would come a global central computer that would oversee all of your financial transactions at every port of entry along the way, from the gas pump to your soda machines to your checkout. Even the vendors on the street would be tapped into this central computer. And this computer would either verify or deny your request to use money that day. And that book came out 10 years before the internet went live. And what I did not know would be called the internet, I called it CENTCOM, for central computer. So these are the roots that I have in Bible prophecy for the last days. As a result of that book, and it going worldwide, it was translated into 15 different languages. A major newspaper in Africa reportedly printed the entire book in a series of issues of their newspaper in South Africa. I was asked by my original publisher if I would consider a sequel to the book. As I prayed about it and gave it some thought, this idea of a digital economic world came to mind, and from that came the word diginomics. And as I began to pursue it and look into it, I discovered that that word didn't exist. So I submitted it to all the English-speaking dictionaries that I could find at the time by letter, and not by computer, but by letter, because I came up with that word in 1998. In 2007, the Merriam-Webster Dictionary picked it up and contacted me and let me know that I was the inventor of a new word in the English language, and so they posted it as such on their website. Now, if you were to Google, if you were to do a search of the word diginomics, you'll find that it's got global tracking everywhere. There are courses being taught in Europe. There are conferences and seminars being held under that name, that title. A couple of books have been written, one from a couple of professors at a university in Spain that teach diginomics as a course in Spain. It's been remarkable to see how this has gone worldwide since 1998. So that's at diginomicscentral.com. Our Transparent World focuses primarily on, again, Bible prophecy, Revelation 13, verse 15. How the image of the beast would have the power to kill anyone in the world that did not worship it. And I raised the question, how in a world of 7.5 billion people are they going to know who's worshiping and who's not, unless they're connected? And as you well know, by way of your cell phone and your internet connections, we're all on the grid, and our movements are easily tracked by a GPS satellite by just virtue of the things that we wear on our belt every day. So we've become a highly transparent world. And on this particular website, ourtransparentworld.com, I take you into some of the backstories and some of the deeper elements of that transparency. Wollywood Tech News is predominantly a site for late-breaking technology that may or may not necessarily be of common knowledge to a lot of people, primarily made up of videos that I pick up on and place under various different categories that are easily searched. And so you can go there and keep updated on spreading advanced technology and how it's all going to bring to pass. As I've said before, Revelation 13, the most high-tech chapter in the Bible. It takes technology to fulfill that particular chapter in every part. And so our Wollywood Tech News takes you into the videos pertaining to that advancing technology. Then we have the page for this particular program, RevFile TV KBN, under tinyurl.com. If you go there, excuse me, you'll find all these programs posted chronologically. We invite you to like the programs and especially subscribe. If we can reach 100 subscribers to that page, then we'll have our own unique site address on YouTube. But this is where you can go to view all these programs. tinyurl.com/NWA archive. Once a month, I'm on internet radio with Doc Green. He's my host. And he has a daily program that airs on internet radio, the American Voice Radio Network, around the world from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. Central. And I'm his special guest the fourth Thursday of each month at that time slot. And NWA stands for New World Academy on the Air. That he has branded this because I go on there and for 2 hours I talk about the things that I only share with you for half an hour here. And we cover a lot of different subjects, so you can find more in-depth information on that particular program. And so you can go to that website. They've got the archive of all of our programs for over a year now. And so if you've got the time, I think you'll find it to be very interesting. It's also on Facebook and YouTube on video, so he does do live video taping of it during each program. So this is the network that God promised me many, many years ago, and He's brought me to this place now. So these are the world developments. It'd be a good thing for the church to awaken to this. You can't pray against it because it was prophesied, and I'm not advocating that you do pray against it. But the Bible does say pray for your leaders. Pray that God will give them the wisdom in going forward in the days ahead. These are the days immediately preceding the return of Jesus in the lifetime of that one generation that would see these things with its eyes. It's going to see the splitting of that eastern sky. I'm Wally Wood. I thank you for listening, and we invite you to come back and join us another time for the Revelation File Report.
You've been watching the Revelation File Report with Wally Wood, a Wally Wood Ministries production from Houston, Texas. You are able to support the ministry by donating at wallywoodministries.com and by mail at Wallywood Ministries, P.O. Box 42005, Houston, Texas 77242. Wally is available to present full 2-hour forums in your city called the Revelation File News Forum. For more details, contact Andy Valadez at 713-560-3348 or by email at andy@andyvaladez.com. The Revelation File News Report is a weekly update of global trends in the news as it aligns with end-time Bible prophecy. Tune in again next time and be sure to like and share this channel.